This story begins in a very scary situation, in a temple of monks who are fighting against a demon, but they start bleeding from their eyes, and these incredibly cool blue flames end up burning them all. But don't wet your pants just yet. We then meet Rin Okumura, who is a problematic teenager orphan living with his brother Yukio in a monastery, and who is the complete opposite of Rin, a kind and studious boy. Since they were very young, they were raised by Shiro Fujimoto, who is technically something like their adoptive father or something like that. Besides Fujimoto, the Okumura brothers also lived with many priests who were around the church, so you could say that all those priests were also part of the family for those brothers. Anyway, one day while Rin was on his way to do an errand, he encounters this group of jerks here who were shooting arrows at pigeons, and of course, Rin gets really angry and gives them the beating of their lives. To be honest, they deserved it. Nice one, Rin. But even though Rin did the right thing, Fujimoto scolds him, not because Fujimoto believes in the idea of turning the other cheek and being peaceful. No, he's fine with beating up bad people. The issue is that Fujimoto scolds Rin because he left his job due to the fight. And sure, if it were the first time, it wouldn't be a big deal, but it turns out Rin is always getting into fights, which this is basically their daily routine. Yukio, his brother, joins the conversation, but it's not very important. What follows is that Rin gets a bit upset and unconsciously damages a stove with blue flames, which are very important for the story's development. After that, Yukio takes Rin to heal his wounds from the fight, and we learn that Yukio is some kind of genius, and at 15 years old, he's going to study at a medical boarding school, or at least that's what Rin thinks. We will see where he is actually going later on. After Yukio heals his brother's wounds, the priests tell the protagonist they found him a new part-time job at a mini supermarket. They lend Rin a suit for his job interview. An important note, while Rin is at the job interview, a girl comes to the church saying there are ghosts bothering her. This isn't important now, but it will be later. So, after a passive-aggressive farewell from Rin, he goes to the job interview and immediately starts working hard. First, he has to move a bunch of boxes, organise carts, clean the floor and other tasks, which he doesn't do very well. And the mini supermarket owner always ends up affected in a way thanks to Rin's stupidity. Until one day, Rin decides to cook sample portions, and he nails it. That becomes his steady job, but it doesn't last long because they fire him quickly. You might ask, why did they fire him if he cooked well? Well, it's due to a curious situation. Do you remember the girl who went to the parish because of the ghosts? She appears at the mini supermarket chasing her scarf. Rin tries to help her, and everything seems fine until Rin notices a little creature carrying the scarf. He chases the creature, causing chaos in the mini supermarket, and the girl gets hurt. After all this, Rin goes to the neighborhood park because he's upset about getting fired. Yukio convinces him to return to the church, where they find the girl from the mini supermarket and her father, who thanks Rin for helping her. The father thinks the story about ghosts is her imagination. Rin tries to tell him it's real, but Fujimoto stops him because it could be counterproductive. After settling this, Rin is punished for the mini supermarket damages, which he didn't cause, but the creature did. Life is tough. The next day, Rin wakes up and notices his brother left for boarding school. But that's not the only thing. Now, Rin also starts seeing black creatures everywhere, which only he can see. The pigeon abusers come back to provoke Rin, leading him to an abandoned place where they start bullying him, calling him poor and other insults. But Rin, not being a coward, fights back and hits the leader, who turns into a demon and tries to burn Rin's face with a hot iron. At that moment, Rin releases some badass blue flames, and the bullies run away, except for the half-demon, since that was his plan from the beginning. It turns out that Rin and Yukio are Satan's children, but Rin is the heir to the blue flames, which is basically the same power as his father. The issue is that the pigeon's bully wanted Rin to release his power to confirm he was indeed a child of Satan, and then take him to Gehenna. And what is Gehenna, you ask? Well, in that world, there are two dimensions. One is Asher, the normal world where we live, and the other is Gehenna, the dimension where demons live. If we think about it, Gehenna would be like hell. Back to Rin and the pigeon bully, the latter was convincing the protagonist to go to Gehenna, saying that they have good benefits and don't work more than 8 hours, and all that stuff. Then, Fujimoto appears and exorcises the pigeon bully. After that, Fujimoto gives Rin a brief explanation of what Gehenna and Asher are, and tells him that the two dimensions want to fight each other. He also says they need to go to the church quickly, because since Rin revealed his identity when he released his blue flames, many many people and demons would come after him. Wow, what is to come for sure is going to be pretty epic. But before we continue, make sure to subscribe and give this video a like. After exorcising the pigeon demon bully, Rin and Fujimoto head to the church. However, there were some demons chasing them, so the way home was not very safe. Additionally, the pigeon bully possessed the boy again, which is a bummer, but not the worst thing to happen. When Rin and Fujimoto reach the church, they use all the demon protection they have and manage to be safe for a few minutes. During those minutes, Fujimoto takes Rin to a secret room and shows him the Kurikara, a sword known as the Demon Slayer. And you might ask, what does this sword have to do with Rin? Well, Fujimoto had sealed Rin's demonic powers in that sword. He gives the sword to Rin, telling him to take care of it and never unsheath it, because if he did, he would become a demon. Being a demon isn't the problem. The real issue is that Rin would be a demon descendant of Satan, who has a terrible reputation in Asha, so everyone would want to kill him. Fujimoto also tells Rin not to worry about his brother, since he didn't inherit the blue flames. This problem is technically only Rin's. After all that, the pigeon bully crashes a truck into the church, allowing the demons to enter freely, leading to a battle between the priests and the demons. But this wasn't the main problem. Rin is kind mad about him. For some reason, so he disrespects the old man, saying that he never loved him, and that he was not his real father either, due to this Fujimoto gave him a good slap to get him to stop being so stupid and hurry up. Things get really bad when Satan possesses Fujimoto's body and has a short conversation with Rin, making a few key points. First is that because Satan is so OP, he can't stay long in this world because he would burn out the bodies he possesses. Second, it seems Satan wants to merge this world with Genna, creating a world shared by humans and demons, which would be terrible for humans. Thirdly, Satan wants to take Rin to Genna to complete his plan or something like that. It's unclear. After frying some priests, Satan opens a gate to Genna to take Rin to his domain, but doesn't succeed entirely. In a moment of distraction, Fujimoto regains control of his body and commits auto-deletion to foil Satan's plans, which of course hurts a lot Rin, but first he has to get out of the Genna gate, which is absorbing him. Desperate situations call for desperate measures, so Rin unsheathes his sword, fully releasing his powers to close the Genna gate, allowing him to mourn Fujimoto. Yukio arrives soon after. Whether it's the same day or the next, they bury Fujimoto. Rin has to call a number given by Fujimoto before his death. Upon calling, some guys led by one of my favorite characters, Mephistopheles, arrive. Mephistopheles is a member of the True Cross Order. The Order members exorcise people, kill demons, and all that. However, they operate under the Vatican's orders. Mephistopheles gives Rin three options: let them kill him, kill them, and escape, or that Rin deletes himself. But Rin doesn't want any of the three. What he really wants is to be part of the True Cross Order to beat the crap out of Santan. Although Mephisto makes fun of Lil Bro, in the end, he decides to accept the proposal. So, the next day, Rin packs his things and meets with Mephisto, who picks him up in a really cool limousine. What will Mephisto do with Rin, you might ask? Well, the man will admit the protagonist to the True Cross Academy, which Yukio also attends. That guy also goes with them. After a short trip, they arrive at the academy, which is very huge, and Rin gets lost. However, as with any wealthy place, classism is never far away. After wandering around a bit, Mephisto takes Rin to a separate place and explains the situation. First, he gives him a special key to access the exorcism classes. He also tells him that his classes will not only be about exorcism, but also regular classes. Lastly, Mephisto tells him it is absolutely forbidden to reveal he is Satan's son, and even more so, to use his blue flames. He then takes him to his first exorcism class, where Rin meets several characters who will be important later. Eyebrows, pink hair, glasses, and the hooded girl, who is not very important at the moment but will be more so later. While waiting for the teacher and the class to start, the protagonist chats a bit with Mephisto, who is in dog form. He says that some of his colleagues had a spiritual wound, an illness caused by a demon. That's why they could see them. Without that ability, they can't become Exorcist. In his case, it wasn't necessary because Rin is half demon. Then the teacher arrives. The teacher is none other than Yukio, leaving Rin completely flabbergasted. You must be wondering what's going on too, so let's clarify quickly. Yukio has always known that he and Rin are Satan's sons, so he was trained from a very young age to become an exorcist. Speaking of exorcists, let's clarify the types and hierarchies, since there are several ways to deal with demons. There are 5 main classes: dragoons, who use guns; Arya, who exorcise by reciting the Bible; doctors, who heal and use holy water; knights, who fight with swords; and tamers, who are too lazy to fight, so they simply summon demons to fight for them. There are also different ranks, from the lowest, esquire, to the highest, paladin, which Fujimoto held. Back to the present. Rin, not understanding what's happening, causes a ruckus, prompting Yukio to ask the class for time alone with him. However, they are attacked by demon goblins, leading to a heated argument about Fujimoto's death. Yukio insinuates that Fujimoto died because of Rin, as their argument caused Fujimoto to lose composure, allowing Satan to possess him. Things somewhat settle, well, kinda, and after all that commotion, the class resumes. That night, they return to their dorm, which is an abandoned building where Yukio and Rin live. The next morning, Yukio goes on an Exorcist mission, and Rin takes the opportunity to accompany him. They arrive at an Exorcist shop where Yukio retrieves his things, telling Rin to stay put. But you and I know that's not going to happen. Rin wanders off and meets a girl tending a garden. Rin accidentally breaks an anti-demon barrier, causing the blonde girl to initially think he is a demon. However, she realizes Rin is human and has no ill intentions. Rin helps the girl, who has leg problems preventing her from walking. As they talk, Yukio and the girl's mother arrive. Yukio examines the girl's legs and identifies a demon hiding inside that garden is causing her affliction. The situation worsens when the girl faints, but the girl manages to wake up after several hours of being unconscious. But in any case, that does not solve the problem. Rin, determined to help, starts destroying the garden, believing it's the source of her problems. She tells him she protected the garden a lot because it used to be her grandmother's, and since she passed away, she promised to take care of it in her memory. This was because she also felt guilty, since one day she had to left the lady alone, and when she returned, some plants had fallen on her. After some words of encouragement from Rin, the girl renounces her pact with the garden's demon. Angered, the demon attacks. Said demon took the blonde hostage. Rin tries to break the roots of the damned demon, but of course it's not that easy. But thanks to Yukio, they manage to free the blonde, and finally Rin turns that demon into a salad, and that's how the blonde starts walking again, fixing some mother-daughter problems, and gets into the Exorcist class. And after taking a pharmacology exam, we see the results being handed out, and the waifu is very confident. But despite being very good in the field, she made up names for the plants, and for that, Yukio had to fail her. The protagonist starts mocking her, but the cheeky one was worse as he only scored 2 points on his exam. That wasn't the only thing. In other classes, he kept falling asleep. This greatly annoyed a guy named Ryuji, or Bon, who was in his class. So he starts a rivalry with the protagonist, even scolding him in front of everyone because he felt he didn't deserve to be there. Later, the protagonist talks to the blonde girl and Yukio tells him that the bully is a genius who got into the school thanks to a scholarship, just like his brother. So he needed to learn a bit from him and take things more seriously. After this, his brother returns to teach another class, and the skunk head starts bothering the protagonist again because he sees him with the blonde girl. He asks if she is his friend, and the protagonist, trying to look good, says no, but only makes Shemi feel bad. Yes, she wasn't to blame for anything, bro. But anyway, later in physical education, we see Ryuji start picking on the protagonist, and they almost get devoured by some demon frogs because of that. So the teacher calls him aside to talk and tells him that Rin entered the academy under a special condition from the principal, so it was best not to get involved with him. However, this only made him angrier, and when the teacher received a call from his wife and had to leave urgently, he took the opportunity to challenge the protagonist. The challenge was to touch one of the frogs and return intact, as they have the power to read minds, and if he felt any fear or made any mistakes, he would end up meeting God. However, the protagonist didn't accept the challenge and said he had nothing to prove to him and had no intention of dying for such stupidity. Thanks to this, Bon felt embarrassed and went to touch the frog, but when he shouted that he would be the only one to defeat Satan, one of his classmates started mocking him. The guy remembered things from his past, hesitated for a moment, and the frog attacked him, but luckily, the protagonist saved him and even showed that he could touch the frog. Meanwhile, Yukio was watching them, and thank goodness he didn't draw his sword, or he would have had to kill him in front of everyone. On the other hand, we see Mephisto talking with the king of the earth, Amemon, who was his brother, and not only that, but we also find out that they were both sons of Satan, meaning the protagonist's brothers. Wow, this is getting good. But anyway, the guy asks when he plans to return to hell, and he says he hasn't thought about it yet, as he's still having a lot of fun in the human world. Yes, you might be wondering if this guy is good or bad, right? Well, honestly, I don't know either, but we'll find out later. In a scene change, we see that the Four Eyes is very popular at school, so much so that he has 3 waifus crazy about him who fight to bring him lunch, but he rejects them and says he already promised his brother he would have lunch with him. And, well, when they go to the cafeteria, they find that the prices are almost eye-popping, especially for the protagonist who didn't even have a job. So he goes with Yukio to ask the principal to lower the prices, but he doesn't care and sends them packing. Because of this, his brother takes him shopping to save money and prepare his food himself. The small problem with all this was that the guy used the dorm kitchen where they were staying, and a relative of the principal who cooked for everyone at night called Ukebach would get mad if anyone else used his kitchen. Since the boys found out about this, the protagonist had to clean it up. However, it wasn't enough, so they made a cooking challenge to see who could cook better. Well, since they both liked what the other prepared, they ended up becoming buddies. That same afternoon, we see the blonde girl bringing some things to Yukio. They had tea and met the relative, but when the waifu left, the three girls in love with Yukio sneaked in at night because they saw her enter the building. Jealous, they checked the kitchen and found the food Ukebach had prepared, so they started throwing it in the trash, thinking she had made it. This enraged the little man, and he almost devoured them if it weren't for the boys arriving in time and the protagonist managing to calm him down. After this, Yukio had to eat the waifu's food so she wouldn't feel bad, and surely the guy was traumatized by the food for a while. The next day, we see the blonde girl very depressed because of what the protagonist said the other day. Yes, about her not being his friend to impress the guys, but he didn't really think that way. Well, the waifu wanted to have friends like him, so after spending more time at the academy, she started getting along with the boys in the class, who were secondary characters. There was the bald guy named Miwa, then Bon, and Renzo. After finishing classes with Yukio, we see them attending a Defense Against the Dark Arts class with Professor with the patch named Igor, who teaches them to make demon summons they can control to fight against demons. So ironic, I know. But anyway, exorcists who fight with summons are known as tamers, and in the protagonist's class, only the ugly eyebrows and the blonde girl managed to summon. Although, well, the blonde girl's summon was a little plant named Parku. The teacher also tells them that if they lose confidence, their summons will turn against them, and if the magic circle breaks, the summon will disappear. With this said, the class ends, and we see the blonde girl going after the girls, telling them she wants to be their friend. Because of this, the ugly eyebrows girl starts taking advantage of her lonely, insecure personality, saying she wants to be her friend, but only asking for favors all the time, practically treating her like a servant. The protagonist notices this, gets angry, and tells her, but the waifu is still determined to be her friend. On the other hand, we see Paku confronting the ugly eyebrows girl for treating the blonde girl that way, and she says it's because she doesn't consider her a friend. We see a small flashback of her past, where all the girls treated her badly for being weird and able to see spirits until she met Paku, who considered her only friend. This is why she was so bossy with everyone else. Well, while they were talking, Paku says she's thinking of leaving school because she's not as good as the others. Just then, a demon appears, and Izumo tries to stop it with her summons. But seeing his friend hurt, she loses confidence, and the foxes turn against her. Luckily, the protagonist and the others hear the screams and manage to save them, although the demon escapes. After this, we see the waifu crying because she couldn't save her only friend, but the protagonist gives her his jacket to cover herself and makes her feel better. On the other hand, we see the demon with Igor, as it seems the guy was working with the demons. The next day, Yukio decides to do a camp with the whole class, which would be in the building where the protagonist slept, since, let's remember, that these two live in an abandoned building. On the other hand, we see the ugly eyebrows girl feeling better and starting to get along with the others, starting with the protagonist. Although, well, that didn't take away his obnoxiousness, and she was still worried that his only friend would leave the school. Despite her saying their friendship would keep going, she was so depressed she forgot the prayers in class, and Bon Know-It-All had to finish for her. This led to a fight in the middle of the room, and the one who ended up taking part of the blame was the protagonist, or rather everyone, because Yukio came in right then and punished them all to make them learn to get along. The punishment was having demon stones tied to their legs, getting heavier over time. The guy had to leave for personal matters, leaving them alone, and then the lights went out, and the same demon from the other day appeared, but this time it split into two, releasing poisonous miasma. Since they were trapped, the blonde tried to stop it, but the poison grew stronger, and she weakened. Her friends came to her aid. Bon and the bald guy started praying 3 Our Fathers and 3 Hail Marys to exorcise the demon. However, to buy time, Renzo started fighting, and when they were about to die, Yukio overcame his fear and joined the fray. She summoned the foxes and managed to control them this time, buying enough time for Bon to finish the prayer and defeat the demon. On the other hand, the protagonist took the other demon to a separate room to draw his sword and finish it off. There, he realized that Igor, the teacher, was the one who had summoned it. He wanted to test Satan's son's abilities. When the protagonist quickly dispatched the demon with his sword, Igor slipped away. When the protagonist returned to his friends, he was relieved to see everyone safe. Instead of celebrating, Bon foolishly started a fight because he didn't think things through and left them alone. At the same time, Izumo was ready to accept everyone's friendship, especially from the blonde, who cared the most for her despite mistreating her. Once everything was calm, the director and several teachers appeared, explaining that the training camp was to prepare for the Esquiera rank exam, the lowest rank of exorcists. Since everyone managed to defeat the middle-class demons without assistance, they passed the test. Afterward, they took the blonde to the hospital to recover. When she woke up, everyone congratulated her, acknowledging that they couldn't have done it without her. At the same time, they asked the protagonist how he managed to defeat the demon, and he simply said it was with his sword, without going into details. However, Izumo started to suspect him because defeating a middle-class demon alone wasn't easy. On the other hand, Yukio confronted Igor and asked about his intentions with his brother. He knew he wanted to test him, but he had clearly crossed the line, and more teachers were learning his true identity. Yukio advised him to calm down and assured him that he had no intentions of killing his beloved brother. He was only carrying out the orders that the director gave him. Later, Yukio spoke with the blonde, praising her performance in the tests, but also telling her that she needed more determination and confidence, especially if she wanted to become an esquire and be prepared to risk her life in combat. He suggested she talk to her mother and think carefully about her future decisions. Igor tried to sneak in while sleeping, but Yukio, anticipating this, intercepted him and sent him to rest with the blonde, confirming his suspicions. The protagonist heard gunshots on the roof and goes to investigate. Finding out Igor was a survivor of the Blue Night. That is what we saw at the beginning of the video, when Satan possessed several clergy bodies, causing chaos. But the worst was that Satan took over his body for a moment. His family delete themselves, and Igor lost his eye in the process. Igor vowed to eliminate Satan, his demons, and especially his son. The protagonist allowed himself to be attacked, but warned Igor not to involve innocent people. This snapped Igor out of it, realizing his methods were wrong and that Rin is chill like that. But he warned the protagonist that more people were hunting him because of the Blue Night. The blonde arrived, healing the protagonist and tearfully telling Yukio she knew what she wanted to do. The next morning, the director treated the students to eat rice for $1 to celebrate their promotion. While they were eating peacefully, we learned that the director had sent the eye patch guy to assassinate his brother, but since he failed, now he was going to put him up against his other brother, Amemon, who seems much stronger. In a scene change, we see two guards discussing the death of the protagonist's adoptive father, and this news did not seem to sit well with a cat roaming the area named Kuro. On the other hand, the protagonist returned from running an errand. His brother sent him to the supermarket, but the fool forgot to buy some things, and his brother was angry about it. Well, he was actually upset because he was using his demon powers too much with the sword, and if he continued to rely on it, Satan could take over his body at any moment. But he didn't like giving orders to our MC either, so they argued, ending with him breaking his glasses. Fortunately, the guy had like 30 spare pairs, so he calmly pulled out another one from his pocket and went on his emergency mission. Feeling guilty for what he did, the protagonist accompanied him. There, they encountered the cat, who had transformed and started causing chaos on a bridge because of what he had heard from the old man, as he was his familiar and did not want to accept that Fujimoto was dead. Fortunately, before leaving, he left something to calm him down in case he lost control again, as he was a high-class demon who wasn't easy to defeat. When Yukio was about to use it, the protagonist told him he could hear his thoughts and knew he felt alone, so he asked for a moment to talk to him. He told him he understood his feelings about the old man's death, echoing the same words the old man had said to him long ago. Thanks to those words, the protagonist managed to tame Kitty. After this, Yukio spoke at the school to allow the kitty to remain as the protagonist's familiar and placed another to guard the door. We also learned that what Fujimoto had left was a wine for the cat that calmed him down, and the kitty loved to drink his beers. In another scene change, we see the typical beach episode that cannot be missed. In that excursion, only the protagonist Izumo, Renzo, and Professor Kaoru went. There, they met a little dude named Johei who lived in that town. While the ugly eyebrows girl was bathing in the sea, she got a cramp, and the guy went to help her. However, being a fool, he took advantage to grab a melon and even tried to give her mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. Although the kid really had no bad intentions and starts dropping some riz. The truth is that after saving her, the guys noticed that the sea was dark. This was due to a giant squid in the area, and the islanders believed it was a demon or something, so they called them. We also learned that the kid's father had gone missing looking for the squid, and his son swore to catch it to avenge him and bring back his father. The next day, the waifu was thinking about the riz the little Jew dropped to her, so she started to worry about him and kept an eye on him. The guys were there because the professor ordered them to before leaving to do his thing with his wife. At that moment, the giant squid came out of nowhere and started causing chaos. Kuro tried to stop it, but he was allergic to raw squid and ended up sneezing. The little dude started shooting it with a harpoon, Resident Evil 4 style, and the protagonist had to rescue him. But just as he was about to draw his sword to finish it off, the kid's father arrived, shouting like crazy. There, things calmed down, as we learned that the old man actually had a terrible sense of direction, just like his son, and he said the squid wasn't bad. He had been living with him from island to island until he finally managed to return home and reunite with his son. In a scene change, we see the kids taken to an amusement park owned by the director. Their mission was to find a ghost in the form of a boy who was tormenting the waifus, lifting their skirts and touching more than necessary. Speaking of skirts, we see the blonde wearing one for the first time, as she had to wear a uniform. Thanks to this, all the guys saw the potential she had, but the luckiest was the protagonist, who was paired with the blonde to search for the ghost. While he was there drooling over her, the ghost of the boy appeared, grabbed her breasts, and ran away. Wow. What a little demon. They both started chasing him, but got separated when Maimon stole the protagonist's sword and introduced himself as his brother. He started taunting him to the point of making him furious and starting a fight. Well, it wasn't much of a fight. It was more like a beating. Because of this, the protagonist lost consciousness for a moment and unleashed more demonic power than usual. However, when he saw that they were destroying the amusement park and that the blonde almost got caught up in the chaos, he regained consciousness and saved her life. At that moment, a hooded waifu from their class appeared to help the protagonist with the fight, but Maimon, seeing her, said he didn't want to play with them anymore and left. Then, the blonde and her brother arrived, and the hooded waifu decided to reveal her true identity, introducing herself as Shura, a first-class superior exorcist sent by the Vatican for risk prevention. After this, the waifu took the protagonist to a secret base to interrogate him, but first, she asked the director why he was hiding Satan's son from the exorcists, and he told her that he was training him to become the best among them, as it was their only chance in 2,000 years to go on the offensive against the demons. However, the waifu didn't believe him, so she took the protagonist to interrogate him privately. She tested him by taking away his sword and started to attack him while telling him that she too had been a student of Fujimoto. Before the old man died, he asked her to help train the protagonist when he was older, teaching Rin how to use sword. She also said that the Vatican didn't trust the old man or Mephisto, suspecting that they were hiding important information about Satan, and well, they were probably right about the protagonist and his sword being part of the puzzle. But that's something we will find out later. During the interrogation, the waifu almost killed him, but just before doing so, the protagonist said something that reminded her of Fujimoto's words, and she realized that he loved his father, so she let him go, sent him to the infirmary, and told him she would stay to keep an eye on him. She also entrusted him with the sword, saying that he could have it back when he was truly ready to use it. This was also to ensure that Maimon wouldn't bother him again. Meanwhile, the waifu told the director that she wouldn't inform the Vatican about the protagonist for the moment, but in return, she asked to stay at the school to keep an eye on him. The director agreed, but she made it clear that she didn't trust him or any of the high-ranking officials. After all, he's a demon, and even though he claims to want to maintain peace in both worlds, his actions make everyone doubt him. After this, the holidays arrived, and the kids said goodbye to Paku, as the waifu was no longer going to attend classes with them. At that moment, Yukio and Shura, now a teacher, arrived and told them they were going on a camping trip to test them again. This time, they wanted to see who could complete missions and how much they had improved without using demonic powers. When they arrived at the forest, they set up tents and made magical protection circles. The protagonist cooked dinner, and they realized he was quite the master chef. After a pleasant evening, the test began that same night. The task was to bring back one of the 3 lanterns in the forest and return it lit to the starting point. Only those who brought the lanterns would pass the test. So, the tune-in exams began. Just kidding. During the test, the blonde was attacked by several demon butterflies. When she tried to summon her familiar to defend herself, a larger demon appeared and knocked her out. Fortunately, the protagonist was nearby and saved her by scaring off the butterflies with his blue flame. Though he managed to save her in time, Bon saw the flames but wasn't sure if they had come from him. The blonde woke up and they continued the test. They met up with their other companions and found one of the lanterns. The small detail was that it was gigantic, and they had to work as a team to carry it. But just when they were about to succeed, a giant butterfly demon appeared, and after a couple of difficulties, they managed to get there. However, the ugly eyebrows, girl, and this weirdo puppet boy beat them. But here is where things start to get ugly, since Amemon, whom she repels with a mega barrier. She then gives the boys a good bath of holy water, except for Ring, because he is allergic to it. Yeah, right. Shura then gives him his sword and tells him to prepare for the fight, but the blonde goes into zombie mode and leaves the barrier to be captured Amemon because a parasite someone planted, who uses her to lure Rin, whom he easily knocks out. Bon sees this from a distance, upset because Rin doesn't like to work as a team, but still, everyone decides to help except for the girls. Rin gets knocked out and refuses to use Satan's power, but his friends arrive, and with a rocket, but more than helping, they are getting in the way. He breaks the bald guy's arm and is choking Bon, and is about to make them meet God. Rin has no other option, and decides to attack with all his might, giving Amemon a brutal beating. Mephisto considers the exhibition over since Rin completely lost control during the fight. Rin starts losing control because his sword has a small crack, fighting Mephisto without even hitting him. Luckily, a hug full of feminine affection calms him down, leaving him unconscious. At the same time, the new paladin, August Angel, Shura's superior, arrives to fulfill orders to eliminate anything related to Satan. Rin has a lot to do with it, but he receives a call from the council and takes the director away from Rin. While Mephisto convinces the Gregory Council that Rin could be a valuable tool, Yukio tells everyone that he and Rin are children of Satan, but only Rin inherited the blue flames and also asks his friends, look for someone to repair the sword, except for the bald guy, who is now afraid of Rin, although it's understandable why. Wince during the Blue Night, you know, the barbecue that Satan threw 16 years ago. The bald guy's parents died. Bon's childhood friend tells them that they can only fix it with a special material, which Bon has in his family's temple. The possessed Buddhas tempt Yukio and Bon not to help Rin, but they remain steadfast and bring the material for repair. Meanwhile, in the trial, the corrupt saints receive a visit from Amemon's troops, a trick to get the Gregory Council to authorize Mephisto's plans, asking him to release him. Amemon battles Angel, who uses the Excalibur sword, along with Shura, but they can't stop the demon. In the end, the council accepts Mephisto's option, who, with a snap of his fingers, makes the novice exorcists appear. After a frisbee game with the demon sword, it lands where Rin is, who wakes up and easily defeats the demons. Rin is exhausted, so Angel decides to finish him off, but the council stops him and gives new directives, including that all teachers must know Satan's son, and if he loses control, they have permission to destroy him. Thus, he is closely watched by his teacher and his little brother. Time passes and everything returns to normal, but Rin must pass the Exorcist exam to learn to use his power, or else he could be exterminated. This is very difficult for him because his friends are now afraid of him, especially for using the blue flames. So, Shura and Yukio train him, or rather make it look like a competition, where Shura tells Yukio that she thinks he also desires the power of the Demon King. But Rin interrupts, getting very heated and burning down the gym, except for Shura and Yukio's underwear, giving us some good fan service. Meanwhile, the ball guy ends up being haunted by a demon, which possesses him to attack the protagonist until, after thinking he was crazy, he reveals himself as Tormentor, a high-level demon. The ball guy decides to stop being afraid, but the demon doesn't want to let go, so he tries to take him away. Luckily, Rin tells him to let go and catches him saving him, then cuts the demon. The ball guy decides to leave because of his fear, and what he almost did, but Rin stops him, giving him encouragement and confidence. He accepts this, albeit fearfully, until the rest of of his friends arrive. Meanwhile, Shura and Professor Swaki find an open portal connecting to a snowy place where there is a burned site that appears to be a lab for artificial life, closed by the Vatican. Yukio remembers his days in the monastery as they now have a mission there. Apparently, all his friends were attacked, wrapped in a thick white substance, but they are all alive, this being a message against Rin, who, as always, launches an attack, finding the attacker, a masked figure with very powerful spider powers who manages to escape. But he is pursued by Yukio, who later encounters Nous. Meanwhile, at the academy, the other exorcist squires are attacked by the masked figure. Mephisto arrives to control the situation, but Angel interrupts and arrests him for an investigation into artificial life. Rin must learn to control his flames to avoid burning the candles representing his loved ones. Yukio finds the masked figure with Rin's friends tied up, making one of them call for backup. Yukio wants to prevent this and attacks, but only ends up captured. The masked figure decides he has many live hostages. Luckily, Rin arrives with reinforcements and Shura surrounding the figure, but they are quickly captured. Rin decides to use all his fire control to destroy the web, landing a precise hit, though he ends up sending the masked figure flying. Shura goes after him, but fails to capture him, though she does catch Nous. Rin frees the priests who created him from the webs, frustrating Yukio, who couldn't protect his brother. Meanwhile, the blonde hears something in her garden and finds a blonde girl. Yukio, on the other hand, meets his grandfather, who tells him that his mother's death was the Vatican's fault, not Satan's. He wants to burn her to a crisp. Then, arriving at a giant well, he proposes she be part of his plan. Meanwhile, the tamer tells everything about the masked figure, as his deceased wife has been resurrected and is now in Shemi's house. Despite being hostage for 5 seconds, she believes she is a good person, so he convinces Rin to help her. But then, Angel's troops arrive and take Michelle prisoner to chop her up, but her husband intervenes, though he can't do much. Rin tries to protect her, surprising the resurrected blonde, as Rin decided to protect her, despite what she tried to do to him. Rin almost gets shot, but Michelle intercepts it and saves him quickly. In the end, amid the chaos, the girl's husband carries her, and the garden's plant creatures enclose them in a tree fortress, while the clouds clear with the ringing of bells for an urgent Vatican meeting. The emergency is a coup by Yukio's grandfather, who is promoted to paladin. His plan involves destroying the demon dimension with a missile called Messiah, meaning they must open a door for it, seemingly including killing demons left and right until Bond discovers it. Rin gets angry when his brother kills a good demon and then tries to kill Kuro, so he goes serious mode, but Yukio unleashes his demonic power and knocks out Rin. Shura discovers the new demon form of the other twin, while Rin wakes up in prison with Mephisto, who turns into a dog and escapes, telling Rin that the show has already started. His grandfather arrives to visit him and takes him to a ritual atop a tower where they will send him to St. Peter. The young exorcists try to help until Angel intercepts them, though Shura gets rid of him. The ritual begins, extracting blood from the weapons and Rin to open the portal until Yukio realizes it and finally understands his grandfather's betrayal. Yukio decides to replace his brother, burning all the other priests in the process, opening the door and launching the failed surprise, causing thousands of demonic insects to emerge. Rin's friends arrive and get him out while Yukio stays, as Satan, with his father's voice, shows him a memory of how his grandfather was responsible for his mother's death. She was a young woman investigating spontaneous combustion, but when she lost all her colleagues, she discovered she was immune to Satan's flames and became attached to him, offering her body to give him human sensations, resulting in a pregnancy. Fujimoto was accused by the boy's grandfather as he was sent to take care of her. She confesses that Satan is the father of her blessing, so the old man condemns her to be burned. Instead, Satan kills all the exorcists there, leaving the grandfather brutally wounded. Yuri weeps in the chaos, but escapes, pursued by Fujimoto and Mephisto, who find her giving birth. This is when the priest decided to take care of Rin, and Mephisto sealed his powers in the demon sword to make it easier to care for him. All this is confirmed by the grandfather before being absorbed by the door, leading to Yukio's full possession. Angel and Shura continue to fight, though the blonde admits they messed up but must follow orders. The waifu decides to leave the senseless fight, while Rin returns to save his brother, but he can't reason with him as the possession is complete, making him very powerful. They manage to take a dying teacher. Satan's plan is to unite both realms as his wife wife wanted, using the giant door they opened. No one can face him, but Shura, with a snake clone, distracts him enough to escape. Regrouping, they realize they can only help civilians, while Shura and Rin plan an attack, as Shiro's memory managed to return after the possession to end himself. So, they try to save his brother. Shemi hears the plan and returns to battle Satan in the tower while Rin hides. But when he can't take it anymore, the blonde waifu uses an evangelical jutsu, which isn't effective, forcing Rin to come out. He gets a beating, but his cries wake Yukio, who, after battling his insecurities, is free but only one hand, as the other is used by his father to shoot at Rin. Yukio, regretful, tries to end himself, but Rin stops him, saying he doesn't want to go through that again like he did with his father. This moves his brother, who breaks free from Satan's control and hugs his beloved brother. The battle isn't over, as many creatures emerge from the door, beginning the final battle. The dimensional breach widens while Angel returns to join the brothers and Ashura, trying to close the door. Rin's friends are safe underground, worried about Rin, though Bon doesn't worry, because he's so stupid he'd forget to die even if sent to heaven. The refuge is compromised, so they escape. Shemi heals Shura, while Kuro accompanies the brothers for their final attack. Bon starts a plan to protect civilians by connecting dimensional keys to Italy, where the sun weakens the demons, and using many mirrors to reflect light through the door to attack the demons. The brothers ride Kuro but fall. Holding hands, they create a blue phoenix that flies full Mephisto, excited by the show, watching the boys destroy the door, surprising Satan, who apologizes to Yuri for not fulfilling her dream, defeated by the brothers' decision to protect their loved ones. Satan returns to his dimension, and Yuri tells him that her sons might be right and there may be another way. The boys return to their friends, almost unharmed, who hug them tightly. Then, Mephisto is taken back to his destroyed village. So he remembers a man he made a bet with, who although he killed, he said he enjoyed the best moment, feeling that he finally understood him. Later, everything returns to normal, and now there are more students. Yukio returned to being a professor after being demoted. Then the twins go to the forest where their mother lived, and there a small snow golem guides them to her grave. Yukio tells Rin that he met her in Satan's memories, and that she was a good person. Yukio doubts if it was right for them to be born, since they caused their parents' deaths, but his brother tells him they were born because their parents made an effort. Next, we see an operation to stop a Ghost Rider type. As usual, Rin arrives uninvited, stopping the demon who changes hosts to attack again, but Rin wants to chat with him a bit before taking him down, showing that he just wanted his brother not to take the kills from him. And this was the first part. We still need to see the second and the third season, so make sure to drop a like and subscribe so I can make the second part of this video.